GenAI and the latest generation of LLMs is a step change for AI. There is certainly some hype. So that's the very first challenge: high expectation versus reality. How do you know what's real versus not? And there is no other way to find out other than just implementing it, getting feedback from your customer stakeholders, and seeing where the values and challenges lie at the ground. This is at the crux of human and machine alignment. The way, for example, a human would write a summary could be different from the way an AI model could write summary. Doesn't mean one is better than the other necessarily, but one could be more acceptable to human than the other. And we are still at the very beginning of finding out what that alignment means and how to go about even solving it.
Hello everyone, super excited for our first podcast. Our guest today is a technology optimist who has been part of the revolution technologies from startup to world-leading enterprises. His journey includes groundbreaking progress in x86 virtualization and enterprise flash, and now he's innovating in the field of generative AI. It's an honor to host you today, Bhavish.
Oh, excited to be here. Let's talk about GenAI.
Yeah, super excited. So, why don't we get started with the overview of generative AI and large language models?
Sure. So generative AI refers to AI models that are capable of generating new content that is believably human. And this could range from text, images, voice, animation, code, essentially any output that requires a certain level of creativity. And the way this content is created is through large language models. These are the AI models that are trained on massive corpus of data, and they use that knowledge to produce text or image, etc., related to the input they are given. An example, of course, is ChatGPT. When it was launched late last year, it certainly took the technology world by the storm with just the broad range of capabilities it demonstrated, starting from answering questions, writing essays, summarizing information, translating languages. It supports 92 languages today, and even creating poetry. And I want to suggest that while GenAI certainly is a step change in the innovation in the natural language processing space, but it also poses a range of challenges. Some of it we'll be talking about today.
Great. Sounds super interesting. Can you also talk to us a little bit about what are the different tasks and use cases that we can automate, and how are companies currently leveraging large language models?
Yeah. So for context, AI has been part of technology industry for a while, and I think if anything, GenAI makes it easy, makes it compelling to automate any sort of routine task. If you take the engineering day to day, it can generate code, it can summarize various engineering artifacts. If you talk about cross-industry implementations, let's talk about chatbots for a bit. Chatbots have been around for a while. Most of us have interacted with some business or the other using some sort of chatbots, and they vary in level of sophistication, the type of actions they are able to perform, the range of intents they are able to understand. LLMs make it very easy and no longer require highly specialized skill set to develop more dynamic and intelligent interaction across customer service, HR, marketing, or developer community. The biggest and most obvious fit, of course, is content generation and enhancement. This can be poetry, marketing, copy, and this is where still might be very heavy human in the loop required, where you take a draft and revise it heavily before you are convinced that the output is compelling for your customers. When it comes to companies, I think it's very important that they understand what the underlying AI capabilities are and make sure they are incorporating that deeply into AI strategy. And what I mean by that is you need to understand the specific use cases that you want to target where AI can help, and go through high quality data set, invest in reliable infrastructure, get the right stakeholder buy-in, and regularly monitor progress of the AI implementation. AI is not one and done kind of a product. You need to continuously refine it, improve it, and that's the nature of AI development as well. You have to instill a culture of continuous learning and experimentation to uh, get the most benefit out of it. And we should also not forget the ethical and security consideration that comes with some of this new age technologies.
Yeah, those were some of like very interesting points that you raised in terms of evaluating and having to deal with all of the problems. So, can you also talk to us about what were the obstacles that you faced while incorporating generative AI in your product roadmap at Uber?
Oh, this is a very multidimensional question. Uh, Let me set some context. From my perspective, AI has always been oversold. What I mean by that is people have always, in the 60-year history of AI, told that AI can solve a lot more problems, a lot more easily than in reality. I believe while GenAI and the latest generation of LLMs is a step change for AI, there is certainly some hype. So that's the very first challenge: high expectation versus reality. How do you know what's real versus not? And there is no uh, other way to find out other than just implementing it, getting feedback from your customer stakeholders, and seeing where the values and challenges lie at the ground. There's also underestimation of human alignment. I'll share a story when from a customer I had spoken to. These customers are in medical field, and they generated radiology report, and they wanted to summarize it for the technicians. Even when the summary was accurate, the technicians didn't quite find the summary useful or didn't trust it enough. And this is at the crux of human and machine alignment. The way, for example, a human would write a summary could be different from the way an AI model could write summary. Doesn't mean one is better than the other necessarily, but one could be more acceptable to human than the other. And we are still at the very beginning of finding out what that alignment means and how to go about even solving it. And of course, there are ethical and security concerns. Just because AI allows you to do something, should you do it? That's a big question, and that's a question that should embody every single that should be embodied by every single person working on a project. Deep fakes are a big internet nightmare right now. You don't know what's real versus not, and because of the large language model's ability to pose as a realistic human being, um, there are new type of security vectors that are coming up, and we don't have all the answers, frankly, just yet. When it comes to implementation, there is also, I think, all the companies are trying to balance innovation versus tradition. Now, of course, startups are all about innovation. Big companies, when they have found the product market fit, over time they become slowly risk averse, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because they have found something that makes consistently that makes money for them on a consistent basis with respect to revenue and profitability. When it comes to AI, a product market fit is not all that obvious. They will again need to go through the MVP type of exercise, and it does require quite a bit of upfront investment. And that's why the stakeholder management becomes also very important. You need to crisply, clearly communicate what you are trying, why you are trying, what are the early results, what have you learned, and what is the path to that eventual success. And to make matters more complicated, it's not just a model, the entire apparatus is changing. what is your platform, what is your middleware, and what are your models. Everything is evolving at a breakneck speed. And the companies who have had existing investments into technology platforms, AI technology platforms, like Uber, we have Michelangelo, which is our machine learning platform. We have an experimentation platform. You can read more about them on our engineering blog. We believe that because of that, it gives us an edge. But it's by no means complete. You have to adapt to newer infrastructure entities like Llama Index or LangChain and build your apps that can leverage some of the new capabilities that are given by this new new technology infrastructures. And finally, this is where rubber meets the road. AI is inherently probabilistic. What that means is, given same inputs, it can actually yield different outputs. And this is unlike most other products where there is some level of determinism in play. And it goes back down to the use case that you are trying to address. How much variation are you tolerant with? Sometimes variation is good. That's exactly the source of creativity for LLMs as well. But if it varies, let's say, beyond what you are comfortable with communicating to your customers, then that's clearly problematic. As I mentioned before, keeping up with the development in this space is itself a challenge. You constantly need to read up, try, experiment, learn, and see what is the best fit for your use cases. So, like I said, multitudes of challenges, but very exciting set of challenges as well.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. The non-deterministic nature of LLM itself is a big challenge, given that people are trying to build pipelines around it and really automate complete workflows. And security and fairness, of course, these have been problems that has been like questions that people have been thinking about very deeply for quite some time. So, what would your take be on how to tackle these challenges? Because, of course, there is a lot of value add in leveraging large language models. You get to automate a lot of workflows, which is really powerful. But then there are also these challenges that you spoke about. So, how can you tackle these and get started and start leveraging this in a good way?
Yeah, a little bit of old school and a little bit of new school. I would say you have to start with prioritizing and defining clear goals. So get to the specific use cases where you believe AI can deliver maximum benefit, and set realistic goals, ensuring alignment with your overall strategic objectives. B, invest in infrastructure, your ML platform, your experimentation platform that we just talked about, but also look into some of the latest advancements in AI, including LangChain, Llama Index, and other tools. Continuously communicate with your stakeholders, because this is where regular updates through communication about progress, expectation, and potential of AI project, it will help you manage expectations and secure their continuous support. We also need to dedicate resources to track performance and issues in our AI applications, implement the changes rapidly to ensure efficiency for the AI products. And what that means is you really need to put in place automated regular monitoring and updates for your AI products that are in production. Invest into responsible AI design as well. Now, we briefly talked about security, privacy, but there are a range of issues: ethics, potential bias, privacy, fairness, and those kind of decisions, they need to be embedded in every single person that is working on the project. And that really comes from culture of continuous learning as well. If there is no announcement in this space for 24 hours, that's really unusual. And that's the pace that we are dealing with. So you have to empower your team with resources that they can learn from, and provide them avenues where they can experiment also, not just in terms of product, but let's say hackathons, etc. There's also a need for human AI training and alignment. While many people are excited clearly about this space, when they get their hands on the product, something to them seems a bit off, and it may be their lack of awareness. It may also be that based on their feedback, we have some more work to do. And finally, I think the prompt engineering is a beast by itself, and a lot more rigorous approach to testing, learning, and refining is required before you can put a compelling use case out there that your user will find interesting.
Right, right. You mentioned prompt engineering with a lot of stress. How do you think one should think about generating these prompts? What do you think should be like the thought process of building good prompts?
Yeah, so I think there's a myth that there is this perfect prompt and you'll get to it by just sheer thought. I disagree. I think there's a lot of trial and experimentation required. In fact, your first prompt uh, is never going to be a final prompt. In fact, the final prompt will look extremely different, completely different from your first prompt based on the results, feedback, feedback not just from internal stakeholders, but also your end customers. And it's because you really need to understand the target audience and their objectives. And it's not a product requirement level objective. It's you really need to understand the perspective of your end user when they are consuming the AI-driven products. Well-crafted prompt is designed to solve users' needs, both written and unwritten, and objectives in mind. And this is often very difficult to translate on paper. So as it stands today, it's a blend of art and science. Of course, you need fairly good understanding of how the large language models work, but you also need to use precise language to unlock the potential of the language model. You need to balance the instructions and exploration, which is when you write prompt, you need to provide it some context and also some instructions, but not tilt heavily one way or the other. But most important part is you need to refine it regularly, daily, weekly, depending on what the feedback loop looks like, to continuously improve its efficiency and effectiveness.
Interesting, interesting. So in ML space, we've always heard this term that garbage in leads to garbage out. Does that also apply to prompts?
Oh, absolutely. So let's start with models themselves. Um, Prompts are merely the mechanisms to extract the right information from the models, but if the models themselves are garbage, and we'll get to that in a minute, how they can be garbage, all prompts are going to be useless. Um, Models can be quite quote unquote buggy depending on what data it was trained on. If it was trained on extremely biased data, doesn't matter what prompt you write, you are going to get biased output. If it was trained on factually incorrect data, again, doesn't matter what prompt you write, will lead you to the buggy output. But even when, let's say, language models are fairly accurate, and no model is going to be 100% accurate. It is trained on, let's say, whatever is out there, unless you are training with a very specific data set that you have curated and guaranteed accuracy for. So let's assume for a moment that LLMs are accurate. Then it comes to prompt where you provide context and the instructions. And you need to, like I said, you need to provide the right balance for the contextual information and concrete instructions. And if the prompt is poorly constructed, the output will be substandard or even irrelevant. If the context is too vague or too much, where you are just providing data dump to the in the prompt for the model to glean the relevant information, your output also will be somewhat hazy. And garbage in, garbage out, very much true, very much in the context of prompt engineering as well.
Nice, nice. And there's a lot of buzz around autonomous agents. How are these agents different from LLM prompts, very well crafted, well engineered prompts where you have like defined your instructions and done it well?
Yeah. So I think the key difference between an agent and a prompt-based function is how dynamic they are. So what I mean by that is agent really refers to an autonomous program that's capable of observing its environment and acting towards achieving its goal. It can be machine, it can be software, it can even be a person. And agent actions or decisions are guided from some form of AI model that has been trained with a specific goal in mind. So what that means is an AI agent that can operate in that environment and learn continuously by interacting, adapting, and making suitable for more complex and dynamic situations. Whereas with properly designed prompts, LLMs can function as a simple rule-based agent, but that learning ends after being trained, unless you specifically include a data pipeline through, let's say, RLHF, which is reinforcement learning through human feedback, or AI feedback. If they're, but most likely they are not going to be interactive and they won't adapt. They will stick to the rules that you have coded up as part of the prompts themselves.
Right. So we're talking about two very different kinds of LLM applications, right? First is the LLM prompts, very finely crafted, and it's probably even provided some context. And the second one is autonomous agents that almost run, I shouldn't say wild, but they're almost running on their own, fetching information, calling the required tools to execute different tasks. So, are we right now at a stage where we're looking at paradigm shift in data access and security pattern, given that there are new ways in which these LLMs are interacting with our data systems? And if it is, then what does this paradigm shift look like?
Oh, certainly. So as GenAI and autonomous agent require more direct and broader access to the databases and other data sources, there is a fundamental shift in data access and security patterns that I'm observing. Now, for example, we are definitely seeing novel tools like vector databases capable of storing, sharing, and manipulating large amount of high dimensional vectors, which are used by ML algorithms. These are towards improving speed, efficiency, and capacity of data retrieval, but also they demand new security measures. And the shift towards more autonomous access to data is enabling AI models to interact with data dynamically. And of course, this also requires rigorous security controls. So the new paradigm really demands a more robust and flexible data governance frameworks. It can start from stricter access controls to data anonymization to techniques like differential privacy and federated learnings. Um, but it could also be about more emphasis on transparent data practices. So that means clearly tracking who accesses data when and for what purpose. So this not only increases accountability but also aids in auditing and troubleshooting. A point to note here is the ethos of ethical data usage. Now, as we provide AI with increased access to data, the gravity of ethical and responsible use of data rises. As Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. Very much true in the realm of data and AI as well. So to sum up, the new data access paradigm in the AI first era is about finding the right balance between facilitating dynamic autonomous data access to the AI and ensuring robust data security and privacy practices. And teams and organizations will be embracing these dual challenges to succeed in the era of Gen AI.
Right. What an interesting time to be living in. Feels like sci-fi world is not far, given all of the autonomous agents now already the way they're like coming up with and solving different use cases. Very, very exciting. Do you have any final thoughts for people who might be venturing into the field of generative AI? Any advice do you have for them?
I'll leave with a few points here. First and foremost, embrace the shift. We are witnessing monumental shift thanks to GenAI, and as we transition towards AI-driven processes, it's essential to stay open-minded, embrace the change, and be willing to experiment and adapt. B, continuously learn. I think we talked about this. The pace of AI advancements calls for continuous learning. Stay updated with the latest AI research, application, and case studies. Online resources, academic papers, newsletters are all great forums for excellent platforms like this. Get some practical experience. Conduct those hackathons, build prototypes, use open source models to truly understand what these models are capable of. Invest into responsible AI. I think always keep the ethical aspects of AI in mind: privacy, security, fairness, transparency. AI is going to become a lot more prominent, and the ethical implications of AI deployment will become increasingly critical. A lot more collaborative approaches required across disciplines involving stakeholders from varying domains. And the key to AI deployment will lie in collaborating well with domain experts, scientists, software engineers, product managers, etc. And finally, patience and perseverance. Mastery of AI is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. There'll be setbacks, but with curiosity, perseverance, and problem-solving mindset, the obstacle will become learning opportunities.
That's so wonderful. Great to hear so many interesting point of views, and it's been really amazing having this chat with you, given that things are moving so fast. Getting a view of how the leader in is thinking about generative AI and some of the advice that you had to share. It's been really wonderful chatting with you. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Hope everyone, all of our viewers, also enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much, Bhavesh, for taking time out to talk to us. It's been really wonderful.
Thank you.